in this video, we're going to be talking about discrete probability distributions. Discrete, of course, is the type of variable that we're talking about. Probability means the likelihood. And distributions, remember in statistics, that really just means a graph. So what we're doing when we're asking about probability distributions is we want a visual representation of probabilities. I'm just going to write visual probs. Okay, great. All right, so in this example, what we're going to look at is flipping a standard coin, so quarter, penny, whatever you want to talk about, and we're going to flip it twice in a row. So if you think about it, all the options that could happen, all the outcomes that can happen if you flip a coin twice, is that you could get heads twice, you could get a heads and then a tails, you could get a tails and then a heads, and then you could also get two tails. So there are 4 different outcomes that can happen from flipping a coin twice. All right. What a probability distribution is going to do is try to visually represent the odds of all of these things happening. So when we're flipping coins, we either focus on landing a heads or landing a tails. So for example, if you wanted to focus on landing a tails, right, all the options would be 2 tails, 1 tail, exactly 1 tail, okay, so this means exactly 1 tail, and then finally 0 tails. All right, now there are 2 ways that you could calculate these probabilities. The easy way would be just to look at here that we have 4 outcomes, so the likelihood that we'd get 2 tails is 1 out of 4. So 1 out of 4 is the same thing as 25%. Okay. The likelihood that we get 1 tail, there are 2 of those outcomes out of the 4. So the likelihood that we get 2 tails, or I should say, the likelihood I get 1 tail is 2 out of 4, which is 50%. Okay. And finally, 0 tails is the same idea as getting 2 heads. So the probability that that would happen is 1 out of 4. All right, so there's our probability distribution that we're going to, well, these are all of our probabilities that we're going to now graph in a distribution. All right, now I did say that there was another way that you could calculate each of these probabilities, and that is using sequencing. So you might see that the probability that we get 2 heads is taking the probability that you get, probability we get 2 tails is taking the probability that we get a tails once times the probability we get a tails once again. And when I flip a coin once, the likelihood I get a tails is 50%. This is also 50%. And if you take 50 times 50, you get 0.25. I just wanted to show you this in case you see a solution that uses the sequencing probability, which was at the end of our chapter 5. All right, awesome. So let's go back to our list of outcomes for tails. All right, we want to graph this. So what a discrete probability distribution graph looks like is a bunch of vertical sticks. That's it, okay? So we're going to have 3 sticks, a stick that represents each outcome, okay? The height of the stick will be the actual probability. So as you can see, I have a probability of 0.25, 0.50, and 0.25. So I'm going to come over here, make a vertical axis and a horizontal one. And we're just going to call this 0.25 and this 0.50. Now, the reason why I'm only graphing these 2 is because those are the only 2 outcomes I have. If I had different probabilities, I might want to put some different marks on here. Okay, so my first stick is going to represent the probability that we get 2 tails. So here's my vertical stick with a height of 0.25. So I'm going to write 2 tails down below it. Okay, the next one, it's my 1 tail. My 1 tail is right there, and I'm gonna just kind of squish it in. Boom. All right, and then my last one is 0 tails, and it has a height of 0.25 again. All right, that is a discrete probability distribution. There's not supposed to be a wiggle there, but we'll just go with it. All right, I hope that helps as you're working on homework problems.